In the heart of a small village called Ibodom, embedded in the western part of Nigeria, a place renowned for its bountiful agricultural produce, life had always been a harmonious blend of tradition and prosperity. The villagers of Ibodom took pride in their fertile lands, where yams, cassava, potatoes, peanuts, and a variety of vegetables flourished. Livestock such as goats, sheep, and chickens were also abundant, making the village a beacon of self-sufficiency. Ibodom was a place where culture thrived through music, dance, and storytelling, and its people cherished their heritage with unwavering devotion. But this peaceful existence was shattered when the rains ceased to fall. Year after year, the heavens withheld their life-giving waters, and the once thriving fields of Ibodom began to wither. The villagers, as was their custom, planted their crops in anticipation of a fruitful harvest, but the meager rains that did come were not enough to sustain the land. As the crops failed, the people began to draw from their stored reserves of yams and grains, which had been carefully set aside for lean times. With each passing year, the situation grew more dire. The barns that once overflowed with produce now stood half empty, and the once lively village of Ibodom descended into a state of despair. Hunger gnawed at the bellies of the villagers, and with it came a surge of immorality and crime. Acts of burglary, fighting, and the theft of immature crops from the fields became all too common. Livestock, once freely grazing in the pastures, began to disappear, stolen in the dead of night by desperate hands. As hunger and fear gripped the village, sickness spread like a shadow across the land. The vibrant farmers who had once toiled in the fields now lay bedridden, their strength sapped by illness. The weak and the elderly were the first to succumb, and soon the village was burying its dead with alarming frequency. Ibodom, once a beacon of peace and prosperity, had become a place of misery and mourning. The elders and chiefs of Ibodom, recognizing the gravity of the situation, convened at the palace of the Olai, the ruler of the kingdom, to discuss the plight of their people. One by one, they entered the palace, their faces etched with worry and fatigue. The Olai, a wise and respected leader, addressed his assembled chiefs and elders, his voice heavy with concern. He acknowledged the dire state of the village and the suffering of its people, and he called upon his advisors to propose a solution. The chief spoke of the sickness that had claimed so many lives and the failing potency of their traditional herbs. They expressed their frustration at their inability to heal the sick and their fears for the future. Some even questioned the Ala's leadership, suggesting that if a solution could not be found, they might need to seek a new ruler. But cooler heads prevailed, and the gathering resolved to seek the counsel of the village soothsayer, hoping that he might uncover the cause of their misfortune and offer a path to redemption. The messenger was dispatched to summon the village seer, a man known as Oriran. The seer, though a man of few words, was respected for his deep connection to the spiritual world. When he arrived, his appearance was as enigmatic as ever, with white chalk markings on his chest and around his eyes and forehead. The Olai welcomed him and asked that he consult the gods to determine what had gone wrong in Ibodom. Oriran, visibly burdened by his own personal losses, having recently buried his young daughter and with his wife gravely ill, began to perform his rituals. He threw cowries on the ground and chanted incantations, seeking guidance from the spiritual realm. The chiefs and elders watched in tense silence as the seer continued his work, but after a long period of chanting, Oriran's expression remained troubled. He confessed that the gods were silent and that he would need more time to find an answer. Disheartened but not defeated, the meeting was adjourned, with the elders and chiefs agreeing to reconvene at a later time. In the meantime, the village continued to suffer, with no clear solution in sight. Amidst this turmoil lived a young orphan boy named Kola. He was an adventurous and curious child, known for his love of exploring the forest that surrounded Ibodom. Kola was raised by his aged grandmother, Ayetemi, and despite their hardships, he remained a source of hope and joy for her. One day, driven by hunger and a desire to help his grandmother, Kola ventured deep into the forest in search of fruits and tubers. As he wandered through the dense foliage, Kola stumbled upon an ancient drum, hidden away in a secluded part of the forest. The drum was a thing of beauty, intricately carved with designs and adorned with colorful beads. As Kola reached out to touch it, he felt a strange energy emanating from the drum, a force that both intrigued and cautioned him. Unsure of who might own such a remarkable object, Kola decided to leave the drum where he found it, planning to retrieve it on his way back home and present it to the village elders. When Kola returned home later that day, he brought the drum with him and showed it to his grandmother. Ayetemi, though initially curious, asked that they set the drum aside until morning, as she was busy preparing their meager supper. That night, as they slept, Ayetemi had a vivid dream. She saw her late daughter, Kola's mother, who warned her not to discard the drum. Instead, she handed it back to her, urging her to keep it safe. The next morning, Ayetemi, recalling her dream, decided not to send the drum to the elders as she had initially intended. She instead left it in a corner of their small hut, where it remained for several days, largely forgotten. But one morning, as Kola was cleaning the house, he stumbled upon the drum once more. As he moved it aside to sweep the floor, he noticed something astonishing: piles of yams, maize, and vegetables had appeared beside the drum. Kola, bewildered by the sight, rushed to tell his grandmother. Ayetemi, who was outside gathering firewood, was equally surprised when she saw the bounty that had appeared in their home. She immediately recalled her dream and realized that the drum was no ordinary object. It was a gift, perhaps from the gods or from the spirits of their ancestors, and it had the power to provide for them in their time of need. Ayetemi urged Kola to learn how to play the drum, believing that its power could be harnessed to help them survive the ongoing famine. Kola, eager to understand the mysterious instrument, began to practice. He found that as he played, the drum seemed to resonate with the very essence of the earth, its beats echoing through the walls of their small hut. And with each session, more food appeared, as if summoned by the rhythm of the drum. The drum became a source of sustenance for Kola and his grandmother, and they no longer feared hunger. But as the days passed, Kola began to wonder if the drum could also help the entire village. The next day, the village chief called a gathering at the village square to discuss the worsening situation. The villagers, including Kola and his grandmother, assembled, their faces filled with worry and anticipation. The chief spoke of the ongoing crisis and urged the villagers to come together in search of solutions. He asked if anyone had any ideas or suggestions that might help alleviate the suffering. Kola, his heart pounding with a mixture of fear and hope, decided to speak up. He told the assembled villagers about the magical drum he had found and its ability to produce food. At first, the villagers were skeptical, but when Kola offered to demonstrate, they watched with bated breath. He played the drum in the village square, and just as it had done in his home, the drum produced an abundance of food, yams, cassava, maize, and other crops, right before their eyes. The villagers were stunned, then overjoyed. It was a miracle, and their faith in the gods was restored. The Olai and the chiefs, recognizing the significance of this event, declared that the drum's magic must be used wisely. They organized a group to oversee the fair distribution of the food, ensuring that no one in the village would go hungry. But even as the villagers celebrated their newfound hope, the elders knew that this was only a temporary solution. They needed to find a way to restore the rains and bring lasting prosperity back to Ibodom. Kola, though relieved that the drum had helped his village, could not shake the feeling that more needed to be done. He discussed his concerns with his grandmother, who agreed that they could not rely on the drum's magic alone. Together, they decided to seek the guidance of Oriran the seer once more. When they visited Oriran, the seer listened carefully to their story. He acknowledged the power of the drum but reminded them that true balance could only be restored by addressing the root cause of their problems. After performing a series of rituals, Oriran revealed that the drought and suffering in Ibodom were the result of the villagers' neglect of the sacred grove, a place where their ancestors and the spirits of the land had been honored for generations. The seer explained that the villagers had failed to maintain the sacred grove and had not performed the necessary rituals to honor the spirits. As a result, the land had been cursed, and the rains had ceased. To restore balance, the villagers would need to cleanse the sacred grove, offer sacrifices, and hold a grand festival to appease the spirits and ancestors. Kola and Ayatemi returned to the village with this important revelation, and the elders and chiefs immediately set about organizing their response. The Olai called for a meeting of the entire village, explaining to the people what Oluran the seer had uncovered. The villagers, still cheerful by the miracle of the drum, listened intently as the Olai laid out the plan to restore the sacred grove and perform the necessary rituals. The village elders, chiefs, and able-bodied men and women immediately sprang into action. They gathered at the sacred grove, a place that had once been vibrant with life but was now overgrown with weeds and tangled underbrush. The villagers worked together, clearing the grove of debris, restoring it to its former glory. As they worked, they felt a renewed sense of purpose, as if the very act of cleansing the grove was lifting the curse that had plagued their village for so long. Once the grove was restored, the elders prepared the necessary offerings. Goats, chickens, and vegetables were gathered for the sacrifices, while the musicians and dancers began rehearsing for the grand festival that would soon take place. The entire village buzzed with anticipation and hope, their spirits lifted by the prospect of finally putting an end to the drought and suffering. On the day of the festival, the village of Ibodom was transformed. The sacred grove was adorned with vibrant decorations, and the villagers donned their finest clothes, eager to participate in the ceremonies. The air was filled with the rhythmic sounds of drums, flutes, and songs of praise as the villagers gathered to honor their ancestors and the spirits of the land. Kola, now regarded as a hero by his fellow villagers, stood proudly with his grandmother, Ayatemi, at the edge of the grove. He held the magical drum in his hands, knowing that it had played a crucial role in leading them to this moment. As the ceremonies began, the village elders, led by the Olai, offered the sacrifices to the spirits, their voices rising in prayer and supplication. The musicians and dancers then took center stage, performing with a fervor that seemed to resonate with the very soul of the village. The beats of the drums, the melodies of the flutes, and the graceful movements of the dancers created an atmosphere of unity and reverence. The villagers, young and old, joined in the celebration, their hearts filled with hope and gratitude. As the festival reached its peak, the Olai called upon Kola to play the magical drum once more. This time, Kola played not out of necessity, but in celebration and thanks. The drum beats reverberated through the grove, echoing across the land. The rhythm was powerful, as if the earth itself was responding to the call of the drum. Then, something miraculous happened. Dark clouds began to gather in the sky, swirling above the village. The villagers looked up in awe, their faces reflecting a mixture of hope and fear. And then, the first drops of rain began to fall. At first, it was a gentle drizzle, but it quickly turned into a steady, nourishing downpour. The villagers erupted in cheers, their joy uncontained as they danced and sang in the rain that had eluded them for so long. The rain continued for several days, soaking the parched earth, filling the rivers and streams, and breathing life back into the fields. The crops that had struggled to survive began to flourish once more, and the animals returned to graze in the rejuvenated pastures. The village of Ibodom, once on the brink of collapse, was now a place of renewal and abundance. As the rains restored the land, the villagers reflected on the journey they had undertaken. They had faced unimaginable hardship, but through their unity, respect for tradition, and the guidance of the gods, they had emerged stronger. The sacred grove, once neglected, had been restored to its rightful place in their lives, a symbol of the deep connection between the people, their ancestors, and the spirits of the land. Kola, who had played such a pivotal role in their salvation, continued to grow in wisdom and stature. He became a respected elder, known for his compassion, bravery, and deep understanding of the world around him. He often shared the story of the magical drum with the younger generations, teaching them the values of obedience, love, and care for their community and their elders. The story of Kola and the enchanted drum became a cherished tale in Ibodom, passed down through the generations. It served as a reminder of the power of unity, the importance of honoring one's heritage, and the enduring spirit of hope and resilience. The villagers never forgot the lessons they had learned during the time of drought, and they continued to celebrate the grand festival every year, ensuring that the traditions and wisdom of their ancestors were preserved for future generations. As the years passed, the village of Ibodom remained a place of peace, prosperity, and harmony. The sacred grove stood as a testament to their reverence for the past and their hope for the future, a place where the spirits of the land and the ancestors continued to watch over and bless the people. The festival, now an annual event, became a time for storytelling, music, dance, and the sharing of wisdom, a celebration that brought the entire community together in joy and gratitude.
Thank you for listening to my story. If it moved you, please make a positive impact by commenting or sharing it. Subscribe and tap the notification bell to be notified of new interesting stories. I appreciate you all. See you in my next story.